it looks like the teeth are there, but not doing anything.
Exactly. Right, and again,
it's
because they have, you know, that mouth is kind of their hands, you know, so it's something where if we're able to allow them to kind of figure out where the line of appropriate and inappropriate is, then she can, again, have a little bit more freedom, you know, with it. But a lot of times with the socializing, if you don't have a way to kind of have that checks and balances, then they kind of, again, take it upon themselves to make those lines, rules, right? Yeah. But if we can make a very clear line, kind of with like the jumping, right? Be excited, do whatever you want, but the second those paws come up on you, I'm going to give you that correction, right? Same thing with the playing, you know, or the socializing. Go and be rough and rowdy and do all that stuff, but the second you take it too far, that's when you're going to get that correction. And it's going to be a big one, right?
I'm surprised you lasted this long, Mable. You don't have a whole lot of energy sometimes. So yeah, you got to be exhausted. Good. Is that Ralph?
Yeah, this is Ralphie. Yep.
Ralphie?
Yep.
Good,
so now you can kind of see, now it's kind of, yeah, so now it's kind of changed. And so what I'm looking for here is, at some point, does she start to get a little bit more like, all right, now I'm tired and I want to break, and Ralphie keeps pushing her. Is that attitude going to change, right? Is she going to be like, all right, you know what, I've had enough. Again, take it upon herself to kind of communicate, right? How does she interact with that? How does Ralphie interact with that? That's what I'm really kind of looking for right now. Now you can see she's still got mustering up a little bit of that energy still to kind of keep going. But we'll just give them a couple more minutes and see, you know, how this kind of ends up. And obviously I want to end on a positive note. I don't want to always push her to the limit of that. Just right now in terms of showing you, I want to see if that can happen. But if you do socialize her with your neighbor's dog or anything like that, you know.
Muzzle.
Yeah, muzzle first, and even if it's like 2 or 3 minutes, they interact and they're kind of hanging around, they're running around or something, and you can kind of just tell Mabel's like kind of over it. Okay, cool, that was fine. Let's kind of remove and we'll do it again tomorrow or something, you know?
Right.
But, you know, if you have that one successful social, she's much more likely to continue that kind of behavior.
Yeah.
And if they're young like Ralphie, I'm sure it'll be a very similar situation.
Although Ralphie
right?
is probably just a tad smaller than Mable.
Yeah.
I
Ralph.
was going to say, I'm kind of glad you're on top of her. But
Yeah. So kind of like right there, that was kind of the first correction that Mable had given, right? So Ralphie was kind of on top of her. He was kind of like mounting her and stuff. And she, again, took it upon herself to be like, hey, not a fan, you know, and turned around and kind of gave that. He immediately hopped off, and then they went right back to playing, right?
Okay.
So I don't know if you even saw that, but she kind of like turned around a little bit. Yep. So again, it's something where it's just like.
It was a correct, and now they're licking.
Yep. So it's something where she was like, hey, not a fan, give that correction appropriately. Yeah. Ralphie read it correctly, and they separated, everything was fine. Then they went right back to playing, right? So again, it shows that allowing her to give that chance to take it upon herself to have that communication opens a lot more like independence and confidence in herself to be like, okay, I got this. I don't have to just resort immediately to fighting the second I get scared or nervous.
Right.
I can be like, hey, I need some room, and then as long as the dog does it appropriately, then we're good, right?
It was nice to see Rough and Rowdy in its full glory. Huh?
Yep. And she's doing great.
Yeah.
Right, and so with that correction, I didn't correct her at all either, right? Again, it was appropriate, and you know.
It's something she did.
Yep. Exactly. And what you'll see is they kind of will, you know, especially a dog with lack of socialization and stuff like that, they pick up on what's appropriate and inappropriate from other dogs as well. So, you know, with him kind of playing on the ground, she might just be getting tired as well, but it's something where she's like, okay, this is how you play, right? So I'll kind of match that energy or something, you know? A lot of pit bulls, they like to kind of throw their weight around or throw paws at the dogs and stuff like that. So a lot of times when
she's got her both of her paws.
Yeah. When two similar dogs are playing, sometimes you can get a really good social because they have already that like instinctually matched kind of play style. That was really good. And again, I have it on high just just in case, right?
Okay.
She did great, and I didn't have to do anything, but you cross that line, you're definitely gonna know you did, right? Because again, kind of what we were talking about on the walk, I would rather stop that reactivity, stop that fight from happening right away, be one and done, have this big explosion of a correction, yeah, but at least we're not hurting yourself, hurting another dog, or hurting you trying to get into that fight, right?
Right.
This is kind of your insurance to be able to kind of step in and stop that right away, right? And then from there, you know, she can kind of do whatever she needs to. But just giving her that recall or something, kind of like what I did with Ralphie, to kind of leave too. You know, it's something where you don't necessarily always have to kind of go in the middle of it and drag her away. Just try to kind of get her out. If she doesn't, remember, just with the recalls, if she doesn't listen, if she still wants to play or whatever, it's what I need you to do, not what you want to do, right? So give her that correction. And for that, go down, right? Once we start wrapping it up and everything and you're doing the recall, don't keep it on high. You know, you can go back down to the appropriate level and then just kind of work from there, right? You know, in terms of doing this throughout the day and everything with the commands and such, with the weather getting colder, you know, people want to go on the walks to kind of tire their dogs and everything like that. Doing these durations with the bed stay and the down stay and all this stuff, keeping her cognitively like going, that is going to be just as exhausting as going on a long walk, you know? So it's something that, again, just when you are making dinner or watching TV, even something where you're just kind of relaxing, go and put her in one of those commands and just kind of let her like hang out there for a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And it's something where it's good practice, but it will also be a little tiring for her as well. Like, I'm sure she's gonna go home, and because when we were even working those downstays, she was already kind of like nodding off, you know what I mean? So it's gonna be something that she's probably gonna go home and she's gonna pass right out. So it's something that, yeah, so I think just collectively you can see just putting, I mean, you don't have to put 3 hours into it every day, but you know, but just putting a couple minutes in is enough to kind of just like kind of get her in that mode of kind of like relaxing and kind of tired. So if it's ever something that there's a foot of snow out or something come wintertime, it's something that, you know, just maybe add a little extra bed stay or down stay in that day or something like that to kind of tire it out.
I was just reading over Ollie's paperwork, and it seems like most of your issues stem from reactivity.
Yeah, I mean that's like the biggest. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. We did a little bit of training like before, and we had like all this stuff. I don't know. He was making some progress, but I was also not super confident in myself. Like,
Sure.
you know, like what I was doing right. So I kind of cut it out, and then we just have. The last couple months, I stopped taking him for walks.
Yeah.
We have a big yard, so like, we run him a lot, you know, so he gets his energy out, but like, it's awful, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's.
Yeah.
Leash stuff is.
Hi, sweetheart.
Number one priority.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was reading like, it's like dogs and then like cars, vehicles.
Cars are really honestly the worst.
Okay.
Dogs, it's gotten worse with dogs. But also there's like less dogs.
Sure.
So it's like
Yeah.
that's the thing, but like our cars, it's just our street's kind of busy. It's just
Okay.
impossible to, you know.
Okay. Yeah, well, we'd definitely like to work him toward being able to go on walks and being polite and not having those emotional responses to triggers. Did you have any questions on the way we do things or the process behind our training?
No, not really. I mean, I read through the website stuff and it all.
Sure.
sounded good.
Yeah.
I obviously don't know, you know.
Yeah, so you'll be with me for his 10 sessions. We're always going to start on prong today, so if you want to feel the prong we're going to be using, it doesn't pierce his skin, but you can feel it just adds a little bit of pressure there. So it doesn't hurt him, but it will make him a little bit more sensitive to leash pressure. And this is what we're going to utilize as we're beginning to kind of shape our training with him.
He is friendly with dogs, you know, like I don't think he's ever really, it kind of sounds scary, but I don't
Sure.
think he's ever trying to be like.
Yeah.
He's not like, he's not baring his teeth or anything.
Yeah.
He's doing that. So it's less of an aggressive thing, I think.
Sure.
An excited thing.
Yeah, the reactivity, it can be hard to see where it stems from because it's emotional response. So he's seeing something that he's like upset about and he's barking at it, obviously. And our goal is to help him be around those triggers and learn to work past them instead of avoiding. So the idea of the prong is, again, we're making him a little bit more cognizant of leash pressure and more sensitive. So as I'm walking here, the pressure is not there until I need it to be. So I'm trying not to hold constant tension and like choke him up. As I'm walking, if he starts to step out of my bubble, you'll notice I'm doing a little bit of a pop to get him back in.
All the times I've done the heel training, I don't know if this matters or not, I've kept them on like my right.
You're right.
I don't know if dogs still just switching them.
Yeah. Yeah, he definitely is trained. Do you prefer training on the right?
Yeah, I mean like that's
Okay.
That's just what's natural for me.
Okay.
I'll do whatever time I do.
No, it's okay. We generally train on the left, but we can certainly accommodate right. Now he's going to my left, so.
Like I said, it's been a while since we've
Yeah. Yeah, at this stage, it doesn't matter so much. We can have him walk on either side. Hi. Do you want a little snack? He said, oh, thank you very much. And I tend to start in a straight line as I'm getting him used to the feeling, and then I'll kind of broaden into a circle. So as I'm turning, I just want him to turn with me. I know. Good job. Okay. Yeah, our first session is generally nonverbal because we're trying to see what he knows, treat it almost as an assessment. I don't want to say anything before he knows or we've taught him what to do. So I wouldn't want to say come, or even if he knows SIT, I just want to go off pressure and him feeling things so we can go in and teach, use the verbal command when we love what he's doing. Sometimes if we name it too early or verbalize a command too early, he can become confused if it's sloppy. This should be nice and snug on his neck, so I want it to be worn under his ears.
Right. And yeah, it just like falls out.
Yeah. Now, it's different from the slip lead because the slip lead does provide pressure, but this provides a little bit more, which makes them a little bit more responsive. So again, as you've probably noticed when I was passing you, he was all about going to smell you. And I gave him a little bit of a prong pop toward my body. And that just sent him the message, like, refocus on me. I'm going to transition into doing some sits. So obviously he probably knows some sort of sit. I'm going to kind of teach it again non-verbally today. Come here. And that's just by providing a tiny little bit of pressure up until his butt gets on the ground. Good. And then the second the butt gets on the ground, I try to time it where all the pressure is released, so he's understanding how to turn the pressure off. Okay. Okay is our release word, meaning the command is done and he can get out of it. If he gets out a little bit prematurely before I say okay, I'll just do the same process. Good. Okay. Good job. So smart. Good. You see, I'm using less and less pressure because he's starting to just understand what I'd like him to do with just that tiny little bit of a reminder. Okay? Good. Okay. Our approach is just to be a little bit more mindful about how we're introducing it. Some other philosophies are kind of putting it on right away, and I'd like to ease him into it and get him to do really simple things. You know, he's had a foundation of it, so I'm really happy with how he's doing right now. And we'll go over the e-collar fully next week, because likely we'll start it next week and implementing it. Okay? And we can use it as a corrective tool then and see if we can't get him to start calming down a little bit toward the triggers. Now I'm just going to get him to kind of step on and off of this bed. Bed is a core foundational thing that we'll be using in our training. It gives our dogs a place to chill out in a busy household setting, whether you're trying to get the kids like to bed or get dinner on the table and he's up in the business. It's a good place for them to retire. I really highly recommend having a lot of leadership in the home. I know it seems like why would that matter outside, but it truly does make a big impact. If we can't control him inside of our home, we can't expect to control him outside. Come on, bud.
He's, yeah, we have, you know, training and like, so we say go to bed and like, he goes to bed like right away. He's a lot of good afternoon.
Yes. Okay. Good job.
And so that's actually a question. So we have like a dog bed
Okay.
in the living room.
Yes.
That he likes to go in. But when we sit and we need a break or we need a break, like, or it's bedtime, we say go to bed and that's his right.
Good.
And so,
Okay.
I guess I'd be curious about how to distinguish
Yes,
those
yeah.
two. He's really good about that. You know,
Yeah.
he'll
Okay.
Go right, it's great, but you don't have a separate word for it.
Okay.
His like living room bed, you know.
Yeah.
Obviously, it'd be good to
Sure.
do that. So.
What we could do is one of two things. We could start to name the bed place. I mean, his doggy bed is called place and his crate is called bed, and distinguish those two. Or we could just call this bed and call the crate crate. And it's not gonna be like an insane amount of work. We would just have to kind of switch our word a little bit. So it's more of a preference thing. If you'd like to call it place, there's no problem with that. We can call it place if you feel really confident and comfortable with what you're using already. We're being very communicative with him now through that leash, so I want to let him know when he's doing the wrong thing, and you're doing a really good job of keeping the tension off that leash until you need it. But it's always okay to give a little bit of oomph behind the pop to kind of direct that behavior. Did we tire you? And the last thing we'll do here is some threshold boundaries. Did they leave on the other side? Okay, so we're just gonna start at this gate. And threshold boundaries are just starting to set some precedent at the door, so some expectation that he doesn't rush through doors immediately when we go out them. Generally, this really helps when we're starting our walk because he can get quite intense as you've described. Okay? So the way I'll do that is I'm just gonna walk toward this door. I'm not gonna try to prevent him from getting out at all, but if he does, I'm gonna give him a little bit of a pop and guide him back. And I'm gonna set up that same scenario, where just because there's an open door doesn't mean that he's allowed to go through. Good. Good. And after I've determined that he is not going to pass, I can give him a sit. Good. Okay. And then we pass through the door together. Good job. Good job, buddy. And I'm going to try it on this side as well. So again, open door first. Good, good job. So smart. Okay. And then that okay is the release to go through the door. But starting the pattern in this will be a huge help. So my default is he doesn't rush out the door. Good. Okay. We'll try it one more time here. Good. Okay. All right, we'll have. Good. Okay. Good. Come on, bud. Good job. Good work. I likely think it's like drive. Cattle dogs are bred to herd, so instinctively he might be seeing these things and his instincts are coming out where he's like, I gotta control this. So it might be like built into him, but it's not something that we can't fix or start to utilize to work on. So I just wanted to kind of just gauge where he was at with that. I definitely see the interest in it, and we'll continue to kind of refine and work on that through just setting up some good boundaries with him and offering some correction. So technically popping on the prong like I was is a correction, just getting him moving with me again. So when he does that, I just suggest if you're gonna walk him in the meantime, kind of firm, sharp correction toward your body. Nothing like we won't hold tension there, just there and it's not there, if that makes sense.
Hey guys, this is Seamus. We are working today, day 3, on working on Emeline's kind of resource guarding with new people coming in. The last video, day 1, that we were working on this with Kevin, we were working outside, working on greeting each other, him coming around the car and saying hi to each other. Obviously had that reaction and we're able to work through it. Today we are working with someone new. We were working with Senny, the other board and train trainer, and had her coming in through the doorway, representing more of an in-the-house kind of greeting. And we're able to kind of work through some of that, starting Emeline first on her bed stay, and then moving to having her just in the come command as well. So when we were working through, we were able to kind of address the same issues because we've been working on this for a few days already, even with a new person in a new room. It was something that we were able to see still a lot of progress with. We saw no jumping today. We still had the muzzle on just in case it was something with a new person, new situation, but we had a lot of success even from just working the last 2 days with her. I had gotten an email from the owner, from Emeline's owner as well after seeing that first video, and she had mentioned that in the video, after she started to be corrected for the jumping, she was starting to sit down when me and Kevin were kind of greeting and hugging and stuff. That is something that I kind of wanted to clarify on too, because we also had some people commenting in the video as well. And it's something where in that session, my only expectation was to teach her that the jumping, the reactivity to me and Kevin greeting each other is not okay. So in that video, after a while, she started to choose to kind of sit down and hang back and let me kind of move forward to greet Kevin. And that was something that was solely her decision. I did not ask her to sit. I did not practice any of those commands with her prior to all of that. It was simply just her making the decision to do something that she has been reinforced with positively before, instead of doing something that she was continuously getting that negative reaction to with that correction for jumping. So in her mind, she knew that that was something that I liked her doing, a behavior and command that we have practiced in the past. And so she was resorting to something that she knew was positive instead of doing something that she knew was negative. And so having that sort of reaction with just even that session was something that has laid over into these last couple of days as well, where she's continuing to kind of choose to be put sitting or laying down, whether on the bed or at my heel.
Come in.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, Cindy!
What's up?
Good girl. All right, cool. I like that one. This time, I'm gonna have her just in a down state,
Okay.
and then I'll have you just come in, do the same thing. Okay, come.
Real.
Good girl.
Like that?
Yeah, we'll just go right in that.
Okay.
Down. Good. You're good.
What's up?
What's up, Sunny?
Woo!
Good girl. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Rockstar. I know, think back to when you first started, sir.
Why we're here.
I think what we'll do today then is just kind of do a full run through of all of his commands and kind of make sure they all look good then. Maybe add in some distractions and see how he does. Very nice. And now in situations like this, where say you have him off leash, but you don't necessarily want to give him the okay, which would enable him the full freedom to like go over and like see dogs or people that you maybe don't necessarily want him to. Instead of using your okay, you can use your come as kind of like your transitional command from one thing to the next. So like if he's in a sit and you leave and you walk back, instead of doing okay, you could just say come, and that's gonna make him move to the come criteria of following with you rather than opening up his options a little bit too much. Go ahead and call him from there and see what he does. Look at that. Right past the dog booty. Didn't even sniff on the way.
I don't have any questions, no. But after this, thinking more like throw multiple things.
Yeah, you can kind of start to string everything together a little bit, kind of mix it up. Again, I would say just try to keep it easy for him, and that you're doing a nice balance of like, you could recall him out of the commands, but you also want to make sure you're doing a good amount of going back to him and releasing him as well. So that way he's not anticipating one or the other.
Gotcha.
What do you think, Jerry? As far as like long term, I'd say the big things are with the e-collar, making sure that you're using it consistently anytime you're supervising him until you hit like a good 3 to 4 month span where you're like, wow, I'm really not having to correct him. Like he's listening every time I ask him to do something. There's no nuisance behaviors happening that I'm having to correct for. Then you can start to use it more like situationally. So the situations that I would typically always have the e-collar on, no matter how long he's been trained, are like if you have him out in public, if he's off leash outside, or if you have people coming over. Otherwise, you can typically get to a point where you don't need to have it on, you know. And even in those situations, you may never need to actually use it or correct him with it, but it would be a bummer if you did need it and you didn't have it, you know. So those are the things I'd recommend.
Okay. Awesome.
Jerry, you did it! I know. I'm really proud of you. I know. I'm so proud of you. You did such a good job today. Oh, I know. Oh, the big belly rubs? Yes, the belly rubs. Yes. You did such a good job. I know. What a gentleman you are now. Yeah, the confidence stuff, which is the core of where a lot of his issues were starting from, is just continued reinforcement and that predictability of it, you know? Of like every time that we ask him to do something, we're gonna respond the same way. Okay. Nice work, Jer. Look at you. Very proud. I'm gonna miss seeing you.